Hey, NAMI students, we're going to finish up notes today. So this is our last day of notes. So we'll finish up that last page, and then we'll do a review game, and then we'll take our test coming up here. So let's look at the last major part of the brain. I'm going to talk a little bit about memory, and then we'll be done. So we're going to kind of fly through the last part of notes here. So the cerebellum is the second largest part of the brain. That's the one that had that arborvitae in there that looks like a tree, if you remember from your dissection. The cerebellum has the same thing as cerebrum does. It has convolutions or gyra, the hills. It has the valleys called the sulci. It's got some funny names too, inferior, middle, and superior peduncles, which is kind of a funny name. But basically, your cerebellum is more in the order of quality of life functions, controls your equilibrium, your balance, your posture. It keeps you as you move. It allows us to do things that are smooth, not shaky. Parkinson's and some diseases where you see people shake kind of affects the cerebellum a little bit. So that's kind of what we're looking at with the cerebellum. You can live with a damaged cerebellum, but you're not going to have the quality of life. We'll talk about that coming up here. So just really involved in that making life more enjoyable, more smooth, more, things that we just do and take for granted sometimes, okay? Cerebellar disease caused by abscesses, a hemorrhage, a tumor, sometimes trauma, is going to affect that. So now you're going to have incoordination, tremors. You're not going to walk very straight. You don't have paralysis usually. You just kind of have that quality of life isn't there. I saw in an interview one time, I think maybe it was a TED Talk or something like that, where a guy was saying it's terrible has cerebellar disease because he says, I'm constantly being accused of being under the influence of alcohol. Because look at that, right? Muscle incoordination, shakiness, you can't walk straight. You can imagine the problems that would cause you if you had that disease, all right? So that's the cerebellum, and it is the second largest part of the brain, okay? And we're going to skip through this. This is our, don't want to do that. Stop. My fault. Okay, so let's see if we can get this to work. Okay, now I want to mainly, and I'll get into this more in part 2. So this is kind of a preview of what we're going to kind of, after the test, kind of progress into. And that's memory. And there's long-term, there's short-term, there's working. We'll get into all that. But I mainly want to get down here into what are the different types of memories that we have, okay? How important are your memories? Obviously, if you were involved in a traumatic event, good question. And there's actually an article you can click on if you want and look at it. It's a drug that actually prevents you from recalling a negative memory. And that may not be bad, especially if it's something really bad. It actually decreases cortisol, which is the negative hormone where you recall bad things. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know if I would take that pill or not. Memories all serve a purpose, and there's good and bad ones. But that's something that's kind of debatable, right? Kind of interesting. So let's look at the different types of memory. There's 4 of them I want to go through, okay, or 3. There's episodic or episodals, which means you remember personal experiences, such as maybe a phone conversation you had yesterday or a movie you watched last week. That's a very personal thing. All memories are. Some people can remember details. Don't you love those in a movie theater when someone's telling you the scene before it happens? I hate those people. Because they've seen it before. They know what happens. Some people are good at that. So that's called episodic or episodes. Somatic memory is more of general knowledge. So you'd be great on a game show. Number of days in a week, Colors of the Rainbow, Roy G. Biv, things like that. What is that? What's that object on the screen? It's a scrunchie, right? We know that. So, that is things that a lot of times you think maybe it really isn't that important that we know those things. some things. But there's other things that it is good to know because we may have to recall them in the future, right? And that's a very personal thing as well. There's things that I remember because it's what applies to my teaching. I've told you that stuff before. You think I got a bunch of freaks in my family because it seems like I have an example for everybody has this condition or that condition, just because I can relate it to what I teach. All right. And that type of thing. So, that's the kind of thing you see a lot with somatic memories. Okay. And then the last one, and we'll kind of finish up notes here, is procedural memory. Allows you to learn activities and skills that you're just going to be automatic. When I drive a car, I don't think about it now. When you're going through driver's training, you think about 10-2 and looking at your mirrors and doing all these things because you've never done it before. You get to a point that you get in a car, turn on the key, go down the road, you'll drive 10 miles, and you don't even think about it. You just do it. It's automatic. Okay. Riding a bicycle. They always say, oh, you'll never forget how to ride a bicycle. A lot of truth to that, right? Those are procedural memories. Now, we're going to get into more details with some of this stuff later. And emotion is going to affect these. But I just think it's kind of fascinating, memory and how we use them and what we recall, what we don't recall. Kind of interesting things. And how we store that information is a whole other lesson in itself. So that's it for notes. Kind of just wanted to get all the main parts of the brain out of the way, except for the cerebrum. We'll save that for part 2 notes. All right. Hey, have a good day, and we will talk to you later. See you. Bye.